Gaming NBS episode 295 being recorded Monday, May 25th, 2020. Welcome to Gaming NBS, a tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Welcome back. All our listeners, thank you very much for sticking with us. And if you're new, glad to have you on board. That's awesome. Sean, man, how was your long weekend? Relaxing?
Yeah.
Any gaming?
Let's see. What did I do? Did I game this weekend? I did not. No.
Okay.
I ran Mothership Thursday.
How'd that go? Going well?
It went okay. I got a little grief from the players from the last episode about, talking. Well, some hadn't listened to it yet. I know Jared did and said he was banished from the podcast, but said I didn't specifically see banish.
Well,
yeah, it went okay. I say okay because it came to, I think on my side, it came to kind of not a lull, but I got to make sure that these guys have some avenues, right? I don't want to get them.
There's pacing, and this is a book, a play, whatever it is being written as it happens, right? I mean, this is all improv, make them up stuff as we go, and you're going to have hiccups, bumps, retcon moments. All of that shit is totally there. So, just so everybody else out there, if you're like, wow, that happens? Yes, this totally happens. If you're new to this, or you've got a new game master, a budding game master, who's like, boy, I worry that I might have a bad session, or that session didn't seem to go as well as next one. I think I suck. We all have that feeling. And what Sean's describing has happened to me every goddamn campaign I've ever run. At some point, I'm like, man, that one was just, this wasn't as tension-filled and not as much action or a lore dropping and all the fucking blah, blah, blah from last one. Whatever. It happens.
Yeah, it'll be good. It's fine. It's not like
you lit the campaign on fire.
Well, the guys could be like, I don't know what he's talking about, and so I just
which you will find is actually, I believe, more often than not, people are like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
a little slower than last time, but thank God we had a chance to breathe. Someone wasn't threatening to cut us in little pieces every time we turned around. So.
Right. Yeah,
no,
it's good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good, man.
I ran my Avalon game with my home crew. They figured out a whole bunch of shit. Sussed out a whole bunch about the Penangalon vampires. That's not good. They found out a whole lot of not good there. Let's see. Nick, I haven't ambushed Nick in a long time, but he left himself open. It's always in the library. 4 assassins with guns came in and started shooting. He ended up with a big bloody hole in him. And it was perfect. It took his character. He's like, I have no idea what to do this evening. And he did random crazy, just trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And I think he finally pieced together at the end, oh yeah, I was dropping all this information around kind of willy-nilly. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. So that was fun. Ambushed him. And my kids in their Trail of Cthulhu game, they're starting to realize that they are trapped in the house, and that the house time flows differently.
Whoa.
Yeah. And they learn through finding a secret passage and a secret door in the library and some other documents, family tree and all this crap, that they have been chosen because they are the 7th descendants from a witch. Some sort of witchcraft, black magic, something or other. They each are potential vessels for this person who they thought was a good friend of the family type of thing. Might not be so good now. They're piecing that together. They're going crazy trying to figure out, we burned the candle. Is that why time slipped? Oh, it's got to be the candle. Maybe we should do it again. Don't light the candle. Oh, yeah. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it's always that try again thing, yeah.
And they did find another handful of shotgun shells. So for some reason, Ilana looks at me, she goes, I know that doesn't do anything, but I feel better having bullets.
Yeah.
which is classic Cthulhu. Oh man, that's about it. Let's see here. This weekend for me, pretty mellow, kind of nice, warm, dude. I was expecting rain.
Summer is here in Wisconsin for sure.
Well, our neck of the woods, Wisconsin, we were supposed to have rain Saturday, Sunday, and even today was supposed to be kind of shit initially. Wow, Christ, I got dribbled on like once yesterday. I had to mow my bloody lawn and went crazy on me. But yeah, kind of nice, all told.
Indeed.
So let's see. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, Brett.
I was going to jump into announcements.
Go ahead.
You ready?
Yeah, no,
right.
it'll fit. Yeah, no, it'll fit under announcements.
Perfect. So the bad news: GameholeCon in person is canceled. Alex, Cameron, and the boys put out a very fine notice as to how and why. This is not Gamehole. Yes. This was not a decision that only Gamehole said, we don't feel like, or we don't blah, blah, blah. They're kind of in a no-choice scenario because of Dane County, where the event happens, and the rules and regs put in by the government around how many people can gather, so on and so forth. So,
and that's
the
where I
in-person
live.
event is canceled.
That's where I live, and Brett works.
Yes, exactly. So the in-person event is canceled. Sean, we were babbling about this a little bit before we got on the mics here, and I know I didn't see GameholeCon go, and we will hold an online con. Personally, online cons are cool. They're fun. I think for like the tabletop event stuff, the Con of Champions, that's perfect because that's their thing, right? It gets them, they're an internet, they're, the application company, so on and so forth. But GameholeCon's whole shtick is guests, in-person stuff, and that type of thing. It is not I don't think that same feeling of GameholeCon would translate very well across. And running a convention is very often a thankless job. I've done it for a number of years. It's tough. And I don't know. I could see the GameholeCon crew saying, you know what, that's not our thing. We're not prepared to deal with that type of setup and not doing it. I don't know. Although I have heard that they're planning to do something. So we'll see what happens. I don't have all the details on that. Sean, do you have any more on the online version of Gamehole?
I don't have any more detail about the online version of GameholeCon other than I think Alex got poked a few times and he has said, okay, fine, we'll do something online. So the unofficial word is that there will be an online version of GameholeCon. I was, when the announcement came out, was not a surprise to me personally. And
I was holding out that maybe it'll be okay by then. I was just a little too hopeful.
Yeah, and I was I was optimistic, but I guess in my eyes more realistic. I just saw too many events falling to the wayside, and I think that this thing is just a bigger mess than time will give it. So having said that, announcement goes out. There's no mention of an online version. Yep. Origins, Gen Con, both canceled, and they are earlier in the year, of course, but they are both going online. I don't know what that's going to look like. I just part of me thinks Gen Con online, like you can't even get a room there without a huge amount of problems. How are they going to take their entire convention online? And just say optimistically that 10 to 15% of their attendees decide to do something online, like run and play.
It's a lot of work, man. I mean, organize a convention.
60,000 people, that's like 6,000 to 7,000 people. That's a lot more than any online conventions probably had in attendees this year. Total. So when that came out and it was like a no, I thought, well, it's November, it's October, end of October. And I thought, well, we could have one. Would our BSer community want to
an online thing?
Online, and it would be fairly easy. I mean, tabletop events doesn't cost us anything. This is my understanding. Like you could charge, and then they get a percentage of
credit card fees. Yes.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Right, but I guess you could charge whatever you want, right?
Yeah, you can, essentially. It's been a while since I've set it up from scratch, but I have done it.
Yeah.
The other piece on it, so my advice if we find out that a GameholeCon or whatever has a really cool kick-ass online con setup, blah, 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 for signing for games, whatever. My hope, honestly, is that if that weekend is something I plan to do gaming for anyway, I might be able to run some games for my friends. I've got a number of different people that I only get to see at the gaming cons,
Right.
I know I was going to run a Middle-earth role-playing game for Force of Gary, and a handful of other people that we pulled together. It was going to be a GaryCon. Didn't work. I've always got, I shouldn't say always, but I have a Wraith game I've been looking to run for Dave Beatty and a couple other people, off-book type stuff. So that may be off-book con for Brett that weekend. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Well, and it's like, yeah, it's a whole different beast. You know that as much as I do, Brett. So I was thinking just to do it to get together with BSers on a dedicated date. And one thing that I was thinking is that, with Con of Champions,
yeah,
I didn't run anything. I did pay for a badge to kind of help out tabletop events. I did get on Nola Burt's waiting list. He did have a slot open. I kind of missed it because something came up, so that's my bad. Right. But when these things come up, like Chaos Con, DCC had, Origins had something. I think there was Cobalt Con. There was a bunch of them we didn't even know about that had been virtual. And I thought, well, I could game with the guys. I'm gaming with the guys from Mothership. I'm gaming with my home crew, Tomb of Annihilation and Stars Without Number.
True.
And I think to myself, well, if I ran an online event for a quote-unquote virtual convention, is it really that big a deal? Because it's not like hanging out in the lounge or waiting to see when Brett's game's going to be done so we go out, have dinner, and sit around a table and then join Hobbs and whoever else, Tim DeShane and those guys that show up and shoot the shit. So it's a weird. It's just a different beast, and I don't like the one I would want to do for BSers. Even if GameholeCon happens, I would want us to kind of promote it or do just our own thing, because one of the things we would do, I know for sure, would be just to have a hangout. Like we just get Zoom and get as many people that we can in Zoom, just hanging out. Maybe we'll have a couple things to talk about, and just the people we interact through Discord and Twitter and Facebook and through Twitch and things of that nature. Well, then we just make it 1 hour or 2 hours, and we just all hang out online together for a little while. Bring your cocktail of choice, and then that's like the thing. And then we could still play games and have some of those folks that would want to play with us during the year but can't. Maybe they set aside that one day or one afternoon and they get into different BSers games. To me, is probably
it's the scheduling. It's the scheduling piece where you put something up, people sign up for stuff and so forth. It's the scheduling and sign up, which is where your tabletop events. So I think, Sean, if you want to just take a look at it, they've got really good. You and I can talk offline from here, as they say in the biz, and see what we need to do. I think the key is to not bite off more than you can chew. Anything like this, which is one of those pieces where I know people see like GameholeCon, and when I was looking to when I helped rebrand EverCon, I talked intensely with Alex about how he did, what he did, ideas, thoughts, told him what my con was originally about, what I wanted it to be, and a lot of his advice, which he hammered home repeatedly, was don't bite off more than you can chew. You only have so many people. You only have so much you can do, and you don't do it all at once. So this is one of those things where you hope to gosh you don't have to keep doing this, right? Like it goes back to normal at some point. However, I think we got to figure out what's the sweet spot. Like, okay, we're going to have these games. Sean and Brett are running here, and here. You guys want to run something, figure it amongst yourselves, but we're going to have a hangout from 2 to 3 or whatever the case is. There's always 1,000 ideas and tons of people who've got great ideas that we could do, should do, maybe oughta, shoulda looked into, but we can't do it all.
Right.
So I guess what I want to say from us to everybody out there is that whatever we do, we're going to try to make sure it's the best thing we can do, right? And we don't want to try to have something cool set up and have it be a complete clusterfuck. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I wouldn't go crazy. Like I wouldn't.
Well, I know. I'm just saying
it wouldn't be.
Things.
It wouldn't be much different than Brett's running a game on Saturday. Who wants in? Sean's running a game on Friday. Who wants in? Any BSers want to run a game? When are you running it? Blah, and just kind of probably organizing it through the forums and saying, hey, here's kind of everybody's what they're doing, how they're doing it, what they're using, what time, and how many people are signed up. And it's like literally just here's one event, here's the thread behind it, and organizing it. And that's kind of it. Like I don't want to get vendors and speakers and seminars and blah 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 blah. That's just if we did that, I would just I would just attend like Gamehole Con virtual, and maybe we still do that, but realize that one thing about Chaos Con or Con of Champions is there wasn't a way to kind of denote like, hey, I'm part of Gaming NBS, I'm running this event. It was just an individual. Yeah. There was no, I'm running it under this banner or anything. Yep. I'm not sure if that was intentional or they just ran out of the amount of fields or what it was, but I don't know. Anyways, but that's...
Well, we'll see what we come up with, man. We got a little time.
Yeah. So another thing that I did this weekend, I'm going to see if I can maybe get this off the ground. It's kind of early on. I haven't put it up yet, but we obviously have a YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out, you can go to gamingnbs.com/YouTube and it'll get you to our YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And then I am starting up something called character creation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do it weekly. We'll see. I've been known to fizzle out some of this stuff, but just take a role-playing game and create a character. And then I'm going to put that up there for people to look and see. So the purpose of that is, one, I get some in-depth into generating a character for a particular system. And two, it may help educate others. And three, it may give people, including myself, some insight into the actual game. So this past weekend I recorded, it's about, I think, short of 30 minutes. I try to keep them a little short. But I did low fantasy gaming and created a fighter. And just went through and said, okay, got to roll up abilities. This is what we do for ability checks and attributes, blah, blah, blah. And then for fighter, pick this. And so I'll be doing that. Some systems will be relatively quick, some maybe a little bit more in depth. But as I go, I talk about why it's important that you choose some of the things that you choose or the relevancy behind maybe, okay, there's a luck mechanic in low fantasy gaming. Okay, so you got these attributes.
Well, it's the shit luck, that we ask each other, right, when we're making the character for the new game, right?
Yeah.
If you sit down, okay, what's luck for? Because I can buy like 10 points of it. Why do I want to buy 10 points? Do I want 10 points of it? Trail of Cthulhu or any Gumshoe game is the same. How many points do I need? So I got 65 points to buy investigative skills. Should I just dump like 10? Is 10 good? Is 4 good? What's a good number? And those are questions you get asked. And as the game master, like, oh yeah, it's no more than 4. 3 is fine, blah, blah, blah. But no, that totally makes sense. I like that idea.
So it's just character generation. Man. Yeah, it'll just nothing too fancy, character sheet, and walking through the book step by step and seeing. And it'll also kind of give people insight into how complex or how easygoing it is. And we'll see how it goes. There's plenty of material. Like if I decided to take one system and create like a different class for each.
Just go through every core rule PDF on your Mac and just make one character for each of those.
Right.
See you in 2025, and you'll be about halfway through.
So I probably will start asking, like, hey, what would you like me to create? Like, what do you want me to go ahead and put out there? Some folks that have done this and played in role playing games are going to be like, that's nice, Sean, but others, we'll see. So,
man, I watch my Twitter feed occasionally, more than occasionally, pops up with the, hey, I'm new. Is this an okay build? Oh, I played my character only to find out that I wish someone would have told me. I see these things. Mm-hmm. So it's one more source. And sometimes, I could tell you 16 ways from Sunday, this is how you should make your Gumshoe character. And then Sean tells you, and it's Sean's voice, the phase of the moon, and the fact that it's Sean and not Brett. You're like, oh, that makes total sense. I'm like, damn, dude, I told them the same thing. How come they listen to you? It happens. So the more sources you have, the better off you'll be figuring this stuff out. So very cool. Good.
Yeah.
I like that, man. Good on you. Good
yeah,
call.
we'll see how that goes and gets off the ground. It's not to get into the rules. Like I'm not wanting to get into a whole thing that we would cover on the show, but it's just some of the things you got to kind of know about while you're creating the character. Otherwise, what's the relevancy?
In our low fantasy episode, we talked about the luck mechanic and how it's used and so forth. And even just a brief, look, this is important because there's a mechanic in here that allows you to do this, this, and this. So this is really handy. You should have more than 2 in this, right? That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Helps people understand where they should put stuff.
So look out for that coming, boys and girls.
Slick, man.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Nice.
No. Random encounter. I didn't get to the email bin or anything this weekend. So we know that people have called in. I think DM Kojo, Chris Shorb called in, and we've got some feedback probably on the forums. We're not going to go through them this week on this episode. So we're just going to get into the main topic. Does that sound good, Brett?
Fuck yeah, let's go.
All right, man. Let's get into the main topic. All right. So.
You got me on the edge of my seat, Sean. What's going on? This is too tense. Anyway, so we've talked about tension and holding stuff up. And basically, last episode 294, we basically said, if I'm remembering myself right, damn, that sure is cool. Boy, do that. That thing. That's awesome. See you. Good night, everybody. Which is not overly helpful for how the fuck you actually do the thing that we asked you to do. Or told you is really cool.
I had that in the back of my mind, but I'm looking at the clock going, well, it's been an hour and we haven't gotten to the, hey, this is what you could do to create tension in your role-playing games.
So we talked about it after the show. We're like, what should we do? And I'm like, hey, how about we go back and give some ideas and hints? We hinted a little bit last time, so let's go past hinting into something that we're actually doing, something tactical that you as the GM, and honestly as players too, and from my perspective, if you're at the table, anybody there can help build this stuff up, right? So, we talked about how it's good fun to have. That's great. Now let's talk about ways, methods, means, policies, devices, formats. How the hell are we doing it?
Like so this.
Yeah.
Do it like this and like that. And
all right. So, I'm going to lead off with confined space. I mentioned this last time. And one of the things I mentioned was if you had, in my Avalon City campaign or other city campaigns, or if it takes place in a siege, I described that a few times, where I run a game when you are in an inn in the middle of like the last inn in the outpost in the wilderness, or in a keep somewhere, and suddenly undead are besieging you, or orcs, and they want something from within, and the idea is to ratchet up the pressure from outside and then have pressure inside. It just becomes this wonderful cauldron of pressure and tension, trying to figure out what's going to happen. Will you survive? Do you kill the orc chieftain? Does the necromancer win? Do you find out which one of you has actually been poisoning the cook in the background, or what dark secret so-and-so has? That's all cool. I think, and that came to my mind when we talked last time because Sean's running Mothership, and Mothership is on a ship, right? Confined space is how he's doing it. And as I said, in a city campaign, you're confined in a way by either the walls of the city, the actual physical boundaries, or even Avalon being a big goddamn city, the neighborhood you're in, you have a boundary. And one of the ways I've done that in Avalon, I'll tell people it's god-awful huge, god-awful wide, length, height, holy shit, goes down forever and up, and oh my god. They said, but this story's about a neighborhood. Oh, and maybe the surrounding neighborhoods, but basically it's about your neighborhood, and this is where we will start. And reminding people as you go along, what's in the neighborhood, your local area, that type of thing. Using that language, and you don't even need a thesaurus to go over neighborhood versus, connection of buildings or whatever other phrases you want. But reiterating it helps to put a sense of confinement around the group. Even if you take something larger, let's say you've got a group of people that have that are leaving the Shire and they're supposed to go to this big mountain of doom and so on and so forth. What you're doing is you're confining what's going on, in my opinion, to the characters themselves. Where they happen to be is where the focus is. You're not breezing through the outdoor encounters, right? The travel, the so on and the so forth. You're dealing with that stuff. Each piece has importance to it, and you keep it confined. Excuse me. So when an encounter occurs in the wilderness on this massive trek across this wonderful sandbox you've made, they're at a rock outcropping. They're besieged by wargs. They fight them. They feel confined to that space. There's no like, well, fuck it, we'll teleport and boogie over here. Oh, we can just leave. The things are happening, and because of the way you've described it, you make it feel like the player characters need to stay here, and this is the theater in which they get to operate. Sean, does that ring true to you, or do you think I'm off?
No, I think you're onto something, and I would probably even go a little bit deeper and say that it's not it's not so much and it's physically confined, right? I think that's what you're going for sure.
Or even mentally. I mean, like I said, in Avalon's huge. There's neighborhood upon neighborhood. It's 50, 60 miles across, 180 miles wide, whatever it is. Just thinking you have to stay in your neighborhood because for whatever reason, you've had that drilled into you. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And I would say that you giving them limitations in like a physical space, I guess it would be where I would go. So if it's and maybe not even physical space, just giving them limitations in general, you're confining them in some regard or another, and that's preventing them from so many options where then the tension is like, well, I could just go in that direction or that direction or that direction, and I don't have to deal with A and B. And so therefore, it's not that big a deal.
It's like Mothership is a dungeon in space, right? It's a space dungeon in a way. And dungeons are classic confined areas, right?
Yes.
However, sometimes that pressure doesn't get ratcheted up until you realize your tunnel out is collapsed. You're lost in the dungeon. Something about the exploration has gone wrong. You fall through a hole, you get teleported somewhere, something crazy happens. So I like what you're saying. The other thing I want to throw out there is that we started coming at this from the game master perspective, but if you're a player and you know this, you can feel this happening to you, right? You're watching this happen. Oh, Brett said the word neighborhood. Everything seems to be in the neighborhood. So on and so forth. Oh, and Sean says we're on the spaceship and this is what we're supposed to do. It is okay for your character to say, I want to get the fuck off this rock, man. I'm sick of being in this, spaceship. I'm sick of being in, space jail. And I got to get out of here and whatever it is. But the adventure's there, right? That's what's happening. I want to bust out of this neighborhood, man. I want to get out of Avalon. I want to go see the Outlands. I want to get out of Waterdeep. I want to go over here. Comorium. I want to see the rest of, of the Astonishing Swordsman, Sorcerer of Hyperborea landscape. I want to see it all. Great. That's a character goal. But as the player, get into the mood that's being set for you, right? So I'm supposed to operate within this theater. Perfect. So you can tell in some of the older modules, at least from my perspective, when you read like Tomb of Horrors and stuff. Again, we've talked about Tomb of Horrors in the past being specifically designed to fuck with people. One of the things you can't do easily is it will tell you at the beginning, if you try to gate somebody in, you're fucked here. Oh, you try to teleport? Can't do that here. You can't do this, can't do this. Tons of these hard limitations because the idea was to mechanically say no, that certain powers and things that you could do to skip by stuff or breeze past certain things were unavailable to you. And that can be tough, especially as you get higher levels in certain games where your power curve starts to go up a little bit. It can be harder as a game master to have the confined area approach. And this isn't the only way to do it, right? I'm just saying that confined area can be a tool you can use. Because quite frankly, when you get higher in level and you can teleport without air, wish, time stop, drop meteors on people, you have clones of yourself, you have all sorts of crazy shit, it gets harder and harder to be confined, right? So confined isn't the only way to do it. But if you find yourself in that space, like it sounds like Sean's crew from Mothership are doing a wonderful job. They're in it. They're like, hey, this is the game. This is where we're at. We're going to figure this fucker out. Yes, They all want to survive. They all want to get off the ship, the rock, whatever the fuck they're stuck on. But they're there to make the most of that confined space. And I think that's important as players, to sign up and go for it.
Yeah. There is something to be said about being between a rock and a hard place. And if you're not, it's not going to build any... Nobody in the party is going to be, oh, shit. But if you're between a rock and a hard place, well, the chances of that oh shit moment and is ultimately higher.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the confined area to me is, I want to say classic, but it's easy for me to put my head around. Like, oh, I can ratchet tension because I have this space, right? I've got this little smaller box to play in. The other thing to do, honestly, is you start to look to the media outside of gaming. Look outside of it. How do the movies, the TV, the books, how are they building tension for you? Look beyond horror. War movies, Lord of the Rings, Jason Bourne. Jason Bourne, depending where you're at, travels all over the goddamn place. And one of the ways that when Jason Bourne is hopping around, spoilers for the very first movie, if nothing else, wakes up in a certain area, goes point A, point B, point A, point B. A lot of times the travel between the two is really pretty lickety split. Not a lot of like, oh, he's been found or whatever might be going on. But the real action scenes, every time there's something happening, it's in a localized spot. This is the meat. This is how the parameters are. This is where he can operate with. There is he's supposed to meet a guy. He's got him set up. I want you on this bridge at 2:00. You'll take your jacket off and put it on the ledge. You'll turn around 3 times and walk over to the post office box. Blah, blah, blah. It's a very confined, the action there is local. So what's happening there is it's kind of a callback to the confined area in a way, but they're building tension being a modern setting by being a thriller movie. So look at your thrillers, the books, the spy movies, whatever. How the hell are they building tension? One of the things I like doing about those are when the characters are making their skill checks, you can narrate from outside, right? So in your Shadowrun game, you're trying to break into something. You're trying to work your way past it. They roll. And every time they make it just barely, right? Or they just barely fail. Or you want to juice them a little bit with like, oh my God, that was so close. You have the guard walk up. Wait, what was that? What's going on? I don't know, man. Clomp, clomp, clomp. Gets closer to you. But he turns because he was distracted and he walks away. Oh, Jesus, thank God. I can't believe it. Oh, it's so close. You could feel the guy breathing on me. I was hiding behind the stupid dumpster. I can't believe he didn't see me here. Well, you did roll a 05. You know, that was pretty lucky. You can use those lucky moments and narrate them in, you know, and sometimes it's when the characters roll by not telling people what their chances are is a way to do it. So what I'm getting at here is from the thriller is they look at stuff and like, okay, it's a 1 in a million shot, or I got to figure this out. I've got to get from this roof to that roof. Jump. What do I have to make to get it? Just give me a roll. You know what the number is. You got it in your head. Or even if you want to do something as corny as fudge it and they're going to make it anyway, you can roll that die, or however your game system works, and then narrate the results of the die roll. Because, oh, that looks good. That's a 17. Is that good enough? And you, all right, let me think. All right, here's what happens. That has a lot more, even players on the edge, wondering what the result is going to be than give me a 15 or higher, you get across the roof. Click. Yay, 16, I'm done. That's boring as shit, man. There's no tension build in that, in my opinion. You buying what I'm selling, Sean?
Man, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
That's good. Do you have any movies or TV shows or anything that you like from a tension perspective?
Like I mentioned on the last episode, I like Ozark. I was a big fan. Justin Bateman on Netflix, and it's similar to Breaking Bad. Even Breaking Bad's a good one. It's not, it's just I don't know if it's as much tension as it is always something happening, moving forward. You know, the next scene, it's not you travel, and you travel some more. I mean, sure, yeah, there's some scenery, but eventually, just something is going to go amok.
Yep.
And just throwing that at the player characters and having them react. I mean, I think if we as game masters, and many people have preached this on different shows and in books and tweets and articles and blogs and everything, about how to game master. I mean, give the players a bunch of problems and have them figure out the solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And to have the problems, put clocks on them.
yeah, yes,
So the problem will occur after a certain point. You'll deal with the fact that you have a flat tire, or what? Something's going to happen. You will deal with the fact that the guy in the trunk is waking up, or something's going to happen. Right? This is all shit you got to deal with. When I bring up war movies, and it kind of reminds me of even Lord of the Rings films and stuff. One of the ways I've done it in combat to keep tension in combat going, and to kind of the everything happening, is instead of rolling the dice and saying, I hit you, you take 10 points of damage from the chieftain, instead, you narrate the ogre roaring up, flinging orcs left, right, and center, and he's just barreling after your barbarian. That big stone axe comes up and he swings. I roll the dice. Oh, Jesus, he just misses you. Bam, hits your shield, knocks you back 5 feet, but you're right up. He's ready to go. That's a lot more tense than the ogre moves up. I rolled a 10, and what's your AC? 12, miss you. Move on. So,
yeah. I get like that sometimes, and it's terrible. It's so
easy to fall back on.
Sucks the wind out of it. Yeah, it really does. Yeah,
but especially for the big ones, you're like, oh my god, pull out your narration skills, folks. Work on that stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes the description before the die roll. Describe up to the fact of what might happen. You see this D20? This is going to tell you how hard it hurts. Click. Motherfucker rolled a 2. Oh yeah, roll a 2, and you could just hear Jeff roaring in the background. Happy as hell. Describing it up to the minute. Roll the dice. Frickin' pace you, man. Boom! He hits you. Rockets you across the... that's cool stuff.
Yeah.
And the other thing in the films, or any of the thriller type of thing, something's about to happen. The bad guy comes up. Your weapon's jammed. He's putting that gun down right to your head, and pow! Your buddy, the sniper, takes him out. Holy shit. I thought I was smoked. Yep. Got a friend. Took him out for you. Crazy shit happens.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's, again, tension. One of the other things... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Somebody in the forums, and I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Gabe or who's Carl, but they said whip out the egg timer or the sand in the hourglass, limiting, their time to decide and ponder something, the actual player, right? So if you're not giving them, if it's... That's another thing I find in role-playing games, and it's funny, it's probably me because I'm running some of those. So it's, all right, this is happening, what do you do? And then there's this big, long, drawn-out pause of figuring out how to attack the creature or approach the room. And it's like this, okay, well, I could do this, I could do that, I could think about this, I could think about that. And, if you just put the screws to them like, hey, if you don't flip the timer, flip the hourglass. At the end of this, you don't do anything. We're moving on to the next player. And, players don't want to lose their turn.
And this is why we've talked about that specific thing before, and why it's important to know your group and understand, be able to read the table. I have played with people who have conditions, situations, their personality, the medication they're on slows them down.
Sure.
So if you have people that you're playing with, you're like, look, if I put the screws to Brett, he literally will have a panic attack if I do this to him. That's no joke.
Yes,
Brett,
you
no,
gotta, yes.
But literally, and it sounds goofy, and I'm not trying to.
I don't think it sounds goofy. I realize that, you have to know who you're playing with and what their spiel is. Like, you don't want to talk about,
I guess when I say it sounds goofy, is people are like, oh my God, I know that stuff. Well, we don't. We tend to forget that stuff sometimes, and applying the screws to someone who doesn't deal well with the screws being applied to them could be a little harsh. However, that said, if you explain, like, hey, all right, look, combat's going, we got to move. And then if you put that person who takes a little bit longer at the end of that line, right, they've got a better chance to figure something out because they've got some time as all those timers tick down.
Right.
The other thing we talk about is now seeing, the descriptors, the tension, the confined area. Okay, yeah, that feels doom, pressure, horror movie. I got to get a house with the guy in the leather mask with the chainsaw is going to fucking eat me. I get it. But one of the things that you brought up a couple different times, Sean, is that so much stuff, the pressure, all the problems. And I think there is we hinted at this last time, but there is a issue that we as game masters have that we feel that the tension and the pressure all have to be connected to the plot. I said this last time. I told the story about the girl I did where NPCs dumped water on her, liquid of some kind. It drove her fucking bananas. This is wonderful for a random chart or a list of things you can tick off down the road. So when the characters are traveling, you can roll, and the random encounter is horse throws a shoe. While you're stopping to fix that, you then find that what happened? So something else. How do you compound this? It doesn't have to be monsters attack. It doesn't have to be ninjas kicking the door. This can be the horse throws a shoe. You've got to stop. You have to reshoe the horse. While you're doing that, you can see the rain. Like, son of a bitch, we're going to get fucking soaked. That's what's going to happen. Goddamn horse, we're going to get soaked. Okay, it's a pain in the ass. Now, clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop. You roll again. Next guy's horse throws a shoe. Even if that wasn't what the random die roll is, you could decide right then and there, you know what I'm going to do? 3 of the 5 horses are going to have horseshoe problems tonight. It's a pain in the ass. And someone's going to say, who fucking shoe these horses? Well, that was, we're back at the, the horseshoeing guy, and he was doing it. Well, was his kid doing it? What kind of moron did this? Sometimes the players would be like, you know what? We're on a mission from the Duke. I'll bet you, and they'll start throwing crap because they think this is all connected or whatever the case is. It doesn't have to be, right? It can just be annoyances. And the key is that you can't just fill people's lives with annoyances because that becomes overdone. People can't tell what's a red herring and what's not there. But the other component, in my opinion, is taking those annoyances, then learning when to add them in or have them cause a real problem when the tension is. Sometimes those clocks are slow on that little annoyance. And sometimes you're like, you know what? I got to speed this one up. I got to jack this one. Now's the time when I told them that they had, the gas tank was leaking. And I don't remember the last time they told me, tick, 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 that they checked that gas can. So now they go back there to make Molotov cocktails. And I go, you only got a quarter tank. Fuck, what? It leaked. I told you it leaked. You haven't checked it. You're right. This is where the players come in. Don't argue. Just go, you know what? You're right. We didn't check the fucking tank. We only got a quarter gas. We thought we had 2 gallons. I got a quarter of that. How many Molotov cocktails can we make? Ah, shit. We wanted 10. We get 3. Great. Just fucking lovely. Problem, tension, all that stuff goes up. Does that make sense, Sean?
Yeah, it makes sense. Of course it does.
What are you doing in your current Mothership game? How are you doing that? Are you doing stuff like this? Or
man.
Give me an example, brother. How are you doing it?
Well, you got to leave them stranded, so we can always go back to the ship and find our cozy little cabins, and hole ourselves up. You got to remove that shit, Brett.
Remove some comfort, yes.
Yeah, remove the safe house, and everything's going to be fine here. This room is all like we cleared it out, and there isn't any undead for miles. Yeah, shut that down.
The random encounter of the night, something happens, noises. The dungeon's not a comfortable place to sleep. 5 feet, 20 feet, 110 feet underground.
I think another thing is you got to get them thinking about stuff, even though it might mean something, it might not mean something. So hey, what's the watch? Like, hey, what's the watch schedule? Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna go first. Then Brett's gonna go second, his guy, and then Eileen's gonna go third. Okay, great. Eileen's up. You hear something? I do. Yeah, you hear something. Well, you hear something over here. Okay. Oh, check it out. Nothing there. Am I sure? You got a light source? You got a stick over there?
Yeah.
Right? You do that, and then you throw some beasties, creepy beasties. You gotta, maybe they can't make them out. And then you hear something on the other side.
Yeah, it's a raccoon.
You hear something on the other
annoying.
side. Yeah, and then it could be the raccoon. And then it's all quiet.
Yeah.
Just let it sit there. Don't say anything.
The other one
just let them sit there and let their mind run. Woo.
You'll see this in films and whatnot. I was watching AJ wanted to rewatch the Hobbit movies, the trilogy. They're quite terrible, but kind of goofy in their own way. But anyway, when they're about to enter Mirkwood, spoiler, Gandalf pulls this tree, this bush, and whatever side. He sees a symbol. It's the Eye of Sauron. Oh my God. Bad things. Now, my bad little critters, bad guys, people, there's symbols all over the place. There's spray painted shit, goblins, kobolds. They mark their territory. I've had critters piss on stuff, whatever. Or ogres will break things, paint on things, whatever you happen to do. Not everything has to mean anything. I have had people find dwarven runes or something painted, and they're like, what is this? It says Bragi is a dick. What? Yeah, he didn't like that guy, or whatever it is. It's that there's stuff and things that makes it appear interesting, and like how much time do you want to spend wasting, if you will, looking at it. And I think the main piece in all this is that the larger tension is the biggest clock that's running. We talk about timers and stuff. So I mess with people. I take away their horseshoes. Their camp is flooded this night. They lost their tent in the storm. They're miserable. They're uncomfortable. But there needs to be a reason why that fucking matters, other than it's nature. Nature sucks sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between an annoyance and tension.
Yes, this has to be something.
One can lead to the other, right? But yeah.
To have it escalate from an annoyance to tension/pressure that increases tension, it has to have an effect. Which is why when the characters go through and they're looking for stuff, and you're like, yeah, there's a hand over there. There's a what? There's a hand laying in the corner of the spaceship in this bulkhead here. The fuck, a human hand?
A ham. Me? It's a ham?
Is it a ham? Is it a ham? Did you
say
ham or
ham in a corner?
What the hell?
Because you know that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
There's a ham. You come across a ham. A ham?
What's that? Hand. Hand. Oh, it'd be funny if it was a ham.
Oh, I thought you said ham. Her ham. Huh.
Okay, but then you get back to it, and then you get people's attention. They go, well, look at the ham. Huh, it's covered in blood. Okay, now they're paying attention.
Right.
Right. So now this, depending how you want to run and how you are taking notes and paying attention, one of the things you can do with some of those annoyances is when you're deploying them, and you can do them randomly, you can do them very purposefully. Like I said with the gas cannon, it has a leak. And that's the other thing to do is you keep, let me go back to that. But once you've deployed the thing, keep track of that thing. Either a mental note or write the damn thing down. So when it comes back and they want to use that resource, the resource is limited. And that is another big thing to me that I think about when I think about horror movies or thrillers. Their resources are limited, right? Some people don't want to track arrows, bullets, food. I get it. Different type of gaming. But when we're talking about, I'm going to stop the monster and I need fire, you don't have 2 gallons of gas. You have a quarter gallon of gas. You don't have 3 road flares. You have 2. Why? Because somebody fell in the water and was carrying one and is ruined now. Fuck. Really? I thought they were good. No, it was an old road flare. Remember I said it was moldy and musty and it wasn't all like, oh shit, okay, that's broken. Don't we have any of this? Yeah, that's all waterlogged too. God damn it. That pressure, that tension ratchets things up. And it's tied. Now, it's a resource that you think you need for your plan to deal with whatever the hell is going on, right? So when you're messing with that stuff, it doesn't have to be ninjas kicking the door. It can be, okay, what do we got? You have this, you have this, you have this, you have this. Oh yeah, and don't forget you only have 2 days left of water. Ah, Christ, that's right. We're in space. We can't get anywhere till we solve this problem because the creature's in the engine room. We have 2 days of water. And how much food do we have? 1 day of food. That's fucking lovely. Great. Great.
With these guys, they don't have their safe ship that they arrived on.
Yeah, so you're stuck behind enemy lines.
Got to take their oxygen away from them. So they've got limited oxygen. Oh, and they vacuumed part of the ship. So their oxygen level has depleted significantly. Even it being less than ideal, it is even more. It is even more or less? Even
worse.
Lower. Yeah, even worse than they anticipate. There's a creature running around on the ship. And the ship's somewhat all the systems aren't working properly. So
it's a derelict beat up piece of shit.
Man, I'm throwing the kitchen sink at these yahoos. They're like, they don't know which way to go.
I love it. So basically, if I think about it, its resources are messed up. Confined area is great. The other thing to remember then is that the players are going to drop you clues and wonderful things. They're going to say, I think we need fire to kill this monster. or I think we
Yeah.
need lightning, or I think we
Yeah.
need more bullets, or we need silver.
Right.
So once the players start collecting silver, tell them how much they have. Because now they're asking. They're specifically trying to find out volumes and numbers. Once the players start doing that, help them keep track of that stuff. Remember, you have one piece of actual silver flatware. You've got a spoon. Yeah, fucking great, Brett. Great, I have a spoon. Yeah, and you have that necklace that was made of silver. Good, I got that. Oh, and there's 2 silver coins. So what is that? Like 3 ounces for, maybe, if you take it all down, you got, 8, 10 ounces of silver. Fucking great. 10 ounces. What can we do with 10 ounces of silver?
They're going to kill the undead with a coin. They're going to shove that silver down its throat, and it's going to choke on it, and it's silver. So it's
got to work, man.
It's doom. Oh, yeah. And I say this because Jeff's group or somebody that I play with would come up with that. Like, hey, it's
they're
silver.
Gonna totally Scooby-Doo that villain, man.
I'm gonna,
they're gonna
stick this silver coin
up its ass
down
so far.
Its throat.
Yeah,
I'll put it at the end of the arrow and shoot it into their heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds totally doable.
But what I'm getting at is when the characters start paying attention to volume and numbers and how much of something they have, that's a resource that they value.
Yeah.
It may have bupkis, may have fuck all nothing to do with actually solving the problem. But pay attention to it. If food matters, and they're really paranoid, terrified about food, rats eat your food. You have to worry about this stuff. It does get waterlogged. How much food was Carrie carrying? Well, she had a day's supply for herself when she fell into the watery oil and was stuck there for 5 minutes while you guys tried to fish her out. Food's ruined, isn't it? Yeah, food's ruined. Son of a bitch. That matters. If anything the characters are keeping track of the number on is something you can fuck with, and you're doing that purposely with the intent to drive them, push them to make decisions. Because as your rations start to go down and start to dwindle, you start to feel the pressure you have to do something. Jason Bourne has a very limited amount of kit that he can bring with him. He only has so much. He starts with a certain amount, gathers some, burns it up, gathers some more, burns that off. The stuff gets used, right? And that's where a lot of the tension comes in. Think about your classic slasher movies and stuff. You have, a shotgun. I'm doing this to my kids in my Trail of Cthulhu game. They have 5 16 gauge birdshot shells for their double barrel shotgun. That's it. That's not a lot. And they also know full well that it doesn't seem to do fuck all against Cthulhu type monsters. But they only have 1 of this. They only have 3 of that. They only have 6 days of this. They're asking me specifically, how much do we have? Because they want to know. And I'm stressing this a lot because I think it's really important. Because when the players create this wonderful thing for you, do we have silver? Do we have gold? Hey, I think it takes, raw plutonium to kill the monster. I think mistletoe. Is there mistletoe here? I hear mistletoe works. In your head is Game Master I never thought of mistletoe. Fucking write it down. Mistletoe hurts monster. Totally cool, man. Then they spend a bunch of time eating the mistletoe, looking for the mistletoe, finding it, grinding it into paste, covering their wounds in it, whatever the fuck they're doing with the mistletoe. But the time is the other piece that I think from a tension perspective, we've hinted at, but let's just say it directly here, Sean. Something's got to happen. The big clock, right? And I know Blades in the Dark has clocks, and it's a mechanism that a lot of games have out there. But it's that ability that something is going to happen if you don't solve the problem. Or the problem will come due for you. The big event is going to happen when this goes ding. And if you don't have your shit together, it goes ding and you're fucked. So in a Mothership game, like what you're running, my assumption is you've got to deal with a creature. You got to figure out how to get off this ship or you're going to die. Because at some point, all your resources will be used up and you're dead. That bar tab is coming due. There's no way it's not gonna. You're just waiting for bar time. It's coming. And I think that's an important piece. If you let it drag for too long without something happening, you're going to have a hard time with it. Does that make sense, Sean?
Yes, it does.
Now, the other piece we talked about, too, was that you have to have tension and release, pressure, release, pressure, release. So to have this going for a campaign for a long period of time, there have to be moments during the sessions, maybe every other session, maybe every third, maybe even twice in one session. You go, and then everybody can breathe again. But you've got a moment where it was super tense. Everybody has a chance to relax. They used the fire, their mistletoe-coated silver spoons. They threw it all at the monster and fled. It ran away, yeah. What worked? They look at you. You're like, you're not really positive what worked. The fire hit, it didn't seem like that. Spoons being thrown at its head, it wasn't keen on. And the mistletoe powder, maybe? Don't know. Fuck. What do we do? They're still thinking, but the immediate threat has dropped. The big clock is still ticking. The big event is still going to happen. But the immediate threat has dropped. And that is, that's important. Because if you can have a complete ramp up at a con game, you can do this where it's just nothing but tension. Nothing but tension until the 4 hours is over and everybody's just exhausted and sweating bullets because, hey, it was 4 hours of nothing but tension.
Yeah, baby.
But if you're going to be running the campaign where you play for weeks, months, or a year, or whatever it is you're gunning for, you have to have a little breathers in there. The players have to feel like they got somewhere. Sometimes it's as simple as, all right, that was a tough session. All right, I want everyone to level up between here and next time. Oh, thank God we get to level up. They feel they've accomplished something. They feel that something's happened that's helped them. Even walking away in a level-based system or, hey, you gained experience points to spend on your character or something. You get a new aspect, you get a new something or other. It's a feeling of relief. That's a out-of-game, meta, mechanical thing you're throwing at the players. Go, hey, you earned, ding, got that new spell. You learned that new power. You've got this new Jedi thing, whatever the case is. Unlike Sean. Sean doesn't give anybody anything, though. Ever.
You know, just, I don't know. Gotta keep things rolling and let, you know, maybe they get a little complacent. I mean, in the movies, there's a cutscene. People are in an office talking about stuff and what their next move is or where the target is going. And maybe there's the dialogue in Star Wars. But somewhere else, man, there's action happening.
Yeah.
Or after that, or whatever they're talking about, is going to spur some action. Man, if I run a Night's Black Agents or a Delta Green, man, it's gonna be mass hysteria. Well, I mean, it's gonna you know kind of climb up, but after that, you know, I mean, there's gonna be all kinds of crazy shit happening.
I tell you, those games, especially, the tension is really, really good, and I would not say you have to do this all the time. For every game and every setting. We talked about this a little bit last time, you know. Some games, it doesn't seem to fit as well, right? And that's totally fine. Not every game and not every group of players likes this shit either. And some game masters are like, boy, I feel like I'm just fucking with people to fuck with them. What you're doing is applying pressure and so on. You're creating an environment to make action happen and get people immersed, if you want to use that word. So we're feeling this cool thing and so on. And that they're in it to win it, and they really got to make use of all the small little bits and pieces, the 2 matchsticks they have left. That's all they have. That can be fun. Some people like that as a palate cleanser. Some people don't like any of that shit at all. They like to watch the movies, but they have no intention or desire to play the game that does that. So again, I think before you have ninjas attack, before you do anything like that, before you work on the tension, an important piece is reading your group. You know, how are they doing? What's going on? Sometimes it's a matter of, are they turtling, right? Where they're not doing anything because they just flat don't know what to do, or they're too petrified to move, or they think the safe house is the safest place ever, which is always stupid because you can blow that fucker up.
Blow it up, baby. Make a move. Get a wandering monster through there. Bulldoze it down.
The other thing to remember is, as players, your game master's a shit ton going on. She, he, whomever, they can't remember it all. So when you see your game master, they're working on this thing, there's stuff happening, this could be a great time for you as a player to raise your hand and say, I got to call my mom. What? my character, I've got a flaw. It's been 3 days. My mother's worried sick. I'm willing to bet that's what all those voicemails are on my phone that I've been ignoring for the last 3 days.
Well, see, in some games, there's mechanics.
Really? Yes.
There's mechanics that facilitate, right?
That's where I'm getting
the stress.
Yeah,
you know, the threshold, all that stuff, and then
but sometimes players
stuff starts to go awry.
We get a little complacent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where there's all this cool shit's happening, the game master is just ratcheting. Oh, they're doing all this stuff. But it's time sometimes where we as the players gotta go, oh yeah, that's right, we're playing a Cypher game. I should allow or tell the GM you could do an intrusion. I should help them. That's what I'm saying. when you look at the character sheet and realize, wow, you have a disadvantage. You have this DM NPC who's attached to you. Whatever it is, bring it up because it can be helpful for the game master, because sometimes it's just a break from the game master having to think of all this pressure and tension and putting all this stuff on you, is to say, look, I got to split, man. Why? Because I need to take my kid to school. I need to do this thing. Well, what do you mean? We're in the middle of it. Look, I have no choice. This bond right here. I'm going to ignore this, but hey, just so you know, Sean, I get 2 points of stress. Really? Yeah, I just realized I've ignored calling my mom for the last 5 days. Fuck, really? Yeah, dude, I take 5 points. I take 5 points of stress, whatever. Hey, this happens. And the player's like, oh, shit, why didn't you say I forgot? How could you fucking forget? I just forgot, man. That's fine. That totally is fine. But it's a wonderful opportunity for players, excuse me, to step in there and add to the tension, add to the pressure, add to the stuff. Because as soon as Sean says, hey, I forgot to call my mom, I get some stress. The game master gets to look at everybody else and say, anybody else missing anything? You over there? And Eileen raises her hand and goes, yeah, me too. I forgot to do this thing. Oh, shit. Says Cody, I screwed this up. And it's not like we screwed up, right? I'm using that jokingly. But we get to look at that stuff and as players say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's get in on this shit. Yeah, I got 5 disadvantages I forgot I had for the last 6 sections. Fuck all. Yeah, let's throw it down there, I think it's a great opportunity when this stuff is happening for the players to help keep the action going and to help keep the tension going, because it's not always just the game master's job to do it. Some players have a hard time remembering that stuff until you ask them. So maybe on that GM checklist, maybe on that random chart, you can go through and say, pick a player with a fucked up background and nail them. Whatever you write down. But it's an opportunity for some of those bills to come due. Those clocks tick over. Ting. And then you got to go deal with it. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Anything else you got, man?
No, I'm interested in other folks and how they build tension in there, like mechanic wise or situational, what that looks like. I mean, there's always the wandering monster. There's the, confined areas. There's the giving them a limited amount of time to determine something and making them move. Like giving them that piece prevents them from pondering. And if they can't ponder, they have to make decisions quickly, and some of those decisions aren't always good.
Yes.
And so you're getting them off track a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's always good stuff. I don't know. I'm sure there's other ones we've missed, but
I think there's probably, and someone's going to write in and tell us about a wonderful game or a mechanic out there that handles a lot of this stuff. I am still enough of a believer that a lot of our GMing skills are things we practice. Mechanics can help, but saying, okay, I have to roll right now to see if there's tension will destroy tension. Smoothly implementing tension and pressure mechanics is the key, to me anyway, for how I enjoy my games or how I enjoy to run and how I enjoy playing. It's the smooth, unobtrusive implementation of those kind of background meta mechanics, which can be tricky. And sometimes everybody gets into it and they're in the right mode when that meta, okay, I take a dark side point. Oh, shit, we're in trouble now. We burned too many stress. And Sean, what happens? Sometimes that's great. But other times there is a subtlety that's required to burn those mechanics into the game without being so heavy-handed, because, frankly, if I as a player feel like, I'm just checking off tell them whatever the mechanic tells me I can do is what I do, I feel like a board game at that point, man. I want a little more subtlety to it. That's just my opinion. You good?
Yeah, man.
All right. Anything else?
I don't think so. We don't have anything in the die roll this week that I can think of offhand.
Man, we're slack asses. Well, I'll tell you what. You know what this means, dude? This next time is probably going to be a listener feedback episode, because we may have a fair amount by the time we get back to it. But we'll see what we see.
We might.
Or no one will give a shit. No one will say anything.
They'll say we covered it all too thoroughly.
Too thoroughly, yes.
There's nothing
that
they could add to, which is
never going to happen.
Not going to happen.
All right. So we'll see what we get into next week.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what happens in the next episode and what we cover. Thanks for everybody tuning in on Twitch. You can check us out on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Central Time U.S. live if you'd like. Otherwise, you can catch us in any podcatcher of your choice. And I think that's it. So, any last words, Brett, man?
No, I'm good, brother. Thank you much.
All right. So for Gaming NBS, I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night. Good gaming all.
This episode of Gaming NBS brought to you with the help from the following BSers. Graham Miner, Corey Wynn, Brian Kurtz, Ray Otis, Stefan Dragonspawn, Larry Howe, Mark Tasaka, Pure Mongrel, Chris Steele, Ron Bishop, Thomas Hook, Wayne Humfleet, Craig, Brandon Barnes, Laramie Wall, Dan LaValle, Jason Hobbs, Sky, Old School DM, Perry Basor, Jim Fitzpatrick, John Kayward, Corey Gonzalez, Eileen Barnes, Robert Nemeth, Niall Diamond, Howard Bishop, Eric Salzwedel, The Closet Gamer, Jeff Goad, CW Mellencamp, Craig Huber, Old Scouser Role Playing, Andy Hall, David F. Baylog, Harrigan, Melissa Bashinsky, Brian Rumble, Henry Newcomb, Eric Telvola, Roger Braslett, Mark Sohm, Andy Olson, Eric Avia, Ron Blessing, Jeff Seifert, Mike Hess Jr., Angus, Tony Sugarloaf Baker, Rory Weston, Curtis Hinson, Jim Ingram, Daniel Garrett, Eric Frankhouse Presents, Huss Carl, or is it Hoos Carl, Jason Weeb, $1 Adventure Frameworks, Jared Rasher, Phil McClory, George Sedgwick, Michael Dinos, Matt Cyberlick, Chad Glayman, Finolf, Josh Wallace, Adam, Adam, how do you say your last name, buddy? Is it Grotjohn? Yeah, Adam. Corey Welch, Mirko Froelich, Rich Wishan, Joe Swick, Curtis Takahashi, and Aaron Ralia. Hey, liked what you heard? Maybe? Well, tell somebody. Have them go over to gamingnbs.com/subscribe and have them subscribe. Give us a listen. Thanks, BSers.
This has been a Litterbox Studio production.